We're going to go over a couple of examples on the work with simplifying radical expressions. We'll need this in our next unit, and we are not going to use a calculator here because when you get to the unit test for this, there will be a part where there is no calculator. So let's look at number 1 to start off with. So remember that when you're just multiplying two radicals, it doesn't matter if what is under the radical symbol is the same, as long as they have the same index. And all of these are square roots, so they all have an index of 2, which you remember from algebra, we usually don't write. So if I'm going to multiply the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, I can just multiply what's under the radical. So I end up getting the square root of 4, which is just 2. Another way of thinking about that is we took the square root of 2 and squared it, since we multiplied it with itself, and the power with the exponent of 2 and the radical with an index of 2 cancel each other out, so to speak. All right, so we have a couple of problems like that, and then as we move down, we get to some where it's just a little more complicated. So let's look at number 6 down here. On number 6, we are still multiplying, but really we're multiplying 4 different things. So this is 6 times the square root of 3 times 3 times the square root of 3. And it's okay if we rearrange it. So we're going to multiply our 6 times our 3, and then we're also going to multiply our square root of 3 times our square root of 3. So 6 times 3, I'm going to write this over here, is 18. But the square root of 3 times itself is the same as the square root of 9, which is just 3. So what happens in this problem is this becomes 18 times 3. So if I multiply 18 times 3, well, let's see, that's going to be 30, 3 times 10 plus 24, 8 times 3. So we end up getting 54 for this one. All right, so sometimes we'll get whole numbers when we do these. All right, after number 6, from 7 on through the rest of the page, all of these involve what we call rationalizing the denominator. So we're going to look at a couple of these examples together, and then you can complete the sheet. So in number 8, for example, we have 18 over the square root of 2. Oops, sorry. So 18 over the square root of 2. That's going to, in order to rationalize that, we're going to essentially multiply that with the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. And that's just a different version of the number 1. So that is just a 1 there. So what happens when we rationalize this, the top becomes 18 times the square root of 2. The bottom, though, just like in our very first example, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is just 2. So then our last step, we want to say, like, can I divide 18 by 2? And if I can, I want to cancel that out. Since we can, our final answer is 9 root 2. So as you work problems like number 8, you might realize there's a pattern that essentially you can divide the top number by 2, and it's going to be that times the square root of 2. But let's look at one where that won't work out. Let's look at number 10. Sorry if I'm touching the screen on here. All right, in number 10, we have 7 divided by the square root of 2. So we still want to rationalize it, which means get that square root of 2 out of the denominator. So we're going to do the same process, multiply by root 2 over root 2. We still multiply the top and the bottom. So 7 times the square root of 2 is just 7 root 2. Root 2 times root 2 is just 2. But this time, since I can't divide 7 by 2, I don't want to divide that one. I'm not going to make that 3.5 root 2. I'm just going to leave it as 7 root 2 over 2. Okay, we're going to look at 2 more examples, and then we're going to be good on these. Let's look at number 15. All right, in number 15, we're doing exactly what we did in number 8, but this time we're rationalizing something with the square root of 3 underneath. So I'm going to take 24 root 3 and multiply it by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3, which is just 1. So same thing happens. The top becomes 24 root 3. And then the square root of 3 times itself is just 3. It's the square root of 9, which is 3. So just like we did in number 8, if we can divide 24 by 3, we're going to do that. So 24 divided by 3 is 8. So this becomes a 1 underneath, an 8 on top. And then that's our final answer, is just 8 times the square root of 3. All right, last but not least, let's look at number 18 again, and then you can do the rest of these on your own. 18 is similar to number 10 in that the number on top is not going to be divisible by 3. So if I have 7 over the square root of 3, and I'm going to rationalize it by multiplying by root 3 over root 3, I get 7 root 3 on top, 3 on bottom, and I leave it. I don't want to combine decimals and fractions together. That's yucky. All right, you can do the others.